And now we get to introduce our speakers. One of them is very familiar to you. Kurt Hagen is a member of our club. Kurt leads the development for 555, the owner of Mall of America. So he has tremendous insight and knowledge into how that tremendous economic engine for our region continues to look to the future and how they're going to grow. And along with Kurt, we have Dan Jasper. Dan is, this isn't his official title, but Dan is the chief storyteller for Mall of America. And in the 30th year of MOA, we're celebrating that anniversary this year. Dan continues to do a fantastic job making sure that the Mall of America and the city of Bloomington, where we get to host the Mall of America in our region, looks good on a regular basis. So it's not an easy job, and Dan makes it look effortless while he is doing it. So without further ado, can I introduce Dan and Kurt?
Thank you so much. I know most people in this room, but we appreciate the warm welcome. Thank you for having us. We're going to start with a quick quiz. There are prizes allocated to this, so for those newer visitors, you might want to, who knows the date the mall first opened? You got to raise your hand. Wow, yes. That's close enough. You win a prize. Good. That is correct, by the way. August 11th, 1992. August 11th, 1992. Who knows when we broke ground for Mall of America? That's a prize. Do you mind? You win because you were there. That actually happened 33 years ago tomorrow. June 14th, 1989, Flag Day, when we broke ground for Mall of America. It was a beautiful Minnesota day. It was like 44 degrees, and there were actually snow flurries that day, believe it or not. And the Minneapolis paper the next day had a headline that said, "Why Minnesota?" ? And about 4 pages worth of "It's never going to happen. It's never going to work. Why would people travel to Minnesota to go shopping?" Right? And we actually took surveys. John and I were talking earlier that a lot of people locally didn't believe Mall of America would be successful, and yet it was. We're going to tell today's story through history, through storytelling. We're going to start with Kurt talking a little bit about the past. I'm going to share some stories of our previous 30 years, and then Kurt's going to end up with what the future looks like. So Kurt, I'm going to turn it over to you.
Thank you, Dan. Yeah, it's fun to, especially in this room, because there's so many connections to the mall. You know, mall has been my career. I was there for the first 5 years on the development team early on, and came back about 17 years ago. So I've been there, I think, a combined 22 years. I know Bob Erickson was on Planning Commission. I know we were talking to John. I know your wife was on City Council. I didn't ask you how she voted when the mall first came through. But obviously, you know, the connections to Bloomington. I know, Jim, you were PCL at the time on part of the construction team. Then we got Larry Lee, who was Director of Community Development when it was still starting.
At that point, I was Assistant City Manager.
Okay. So anyway, the roots run deep with this group in particular, and myself and Dan, and what the mall has meant to all of us, whether you realize it or not. If you live in Bloomington, it means something to you. Trust me, every year when you get your tax bill, it means something to you. And you may not realize that, but it does. Yeah, that's right. I forgot. Mahendra had the Burger King franchise there in the first days, and I'm sure there are other stories. Almost everybody has a connection at some. In fact, I think at the end we're going to try to save time to talk about, you know, what your Mall of America connection is. So this isn't a surprise to any of you in this group. A lot of times Dan or I will give talks to people that really didn't know what was going on at Mall of America and what was happening out on that site prior to the mall being built. That scene is actually not that different than it is today on the Kelly Farm site that's still just south and east of us, but it was a sheep farm adjoining to us, and then the Met Center and the Met Stadium. We won't talk about this history because I know you guys kind of all know that history till the Twins and the Vikings moved downtown, the North Stars moved to Dallas, the former Twin Stadium. Home plate is still in our amusement park. You can go out there today and see the home plate. You can see the 50-yard line for the Vikings where it's marked. You can see we have a bleacher seat up on a wall where Harmon Killebrew hit the longest home run in the history of the stadium. That's still there. Groundbreaking day. Simon, 555, Bloomington, Mayor Jim Lindau was a big part of this, and Bob can tell stories about that and how important he was to really the realization of Mall of America between Jim Lindau and Governor Rudy Perpich. Without those two, this wouldn't have happened. This is just a few quick shots of the construction that was going on back, again, started in 89 through 92. A recession was going on at the time, so it was really kind of a godsend to the local building trades. Over 8,000 construction workers, union construction workers, were put to work on the site. We'll just flip through a couple of these photos. That's log chute, still there today. Opening day, August 11th of 1992. Nobody knew if anybody was going to show up, right? I remember the marketing team at that time, Maureen Bausch, was heading it, and everyone was a little nervous. After 3 years of construction and several years of planning before that, nobody knew if there were going to be 50 people out there or 500 people out there. 150,000 people showed up opening day. The place was packed. Too much of our surprise and relief. Secrets to our success, I'm going to flip it back over to Dan to talk about kind of what's happened since that opening day.
And I'm going to share a few stories. There's two specific stories from opening day, August 11th, 1992, that I think are fun. One is we hadn't hired enough people, so we were interviewing folks and hiring them on the spot. One such gentleman was a young man by the name of Paul, who interviewed to be a housekeeper. The interview lasted 3 minutes. They said, "You're hired, go clean the South Food Court." A couple of issues. He had no uniform, no equipment, no training, and he didn't know where the South Food Court was. So for 2 straight weeks, Paul went to the North Food Court, and after 2 weeks, HR called him and said, "We have to terminate your employment," and he was devastated. And he said, "Why?" And they said, "You're not showing up for work." He said, "I've been showing up every day, 7 days a week." To this day, 30 years later, Paul is a housekeeping supervisor in the North Food Court. The one he can find, and I love talking to Paul, and I asked him, why did you take this job? Why do you love this job? He said, "I always wanted to travel the world. I didn't know that I could, and here at the mall, the world travels to me." And in fact, up until COVID hit, every holiday season, a family from the UK would come during the holidays, and they would visit family here in the Twin Cities. They'd come to the Mall of America. They would search out for Paul, and they'd buy him lunch. And it was a tradition with that family. This is a place where you can make connections. The other fun thing that happened on August 11th, 1992 and August 12th, 2 days, was there was a gentleman standing by the escalators in the rotunda, and for 2 straight days, he was charging all of us $1 to ride the escalator. And we were too Minnesota nice to say anything, so we thought this must be what the mall is. So for 2 straight days, we paid him $1. That gentleman, I think, probably has a private island someplace these days, just a guess. Some numbers about the mall. It's a big place. These are numbers pre-COVID, but we're quickly approaching these numbers again. In any given year, 40 million annual visitors. I like to put that in context. That's more than the combined populations of North Dakota, South Dakota, Iowa, Montana, Wyoming, and the nation of Canada. More people go in that building. You think of it in those terms. That's amazing. Yes, Andrew. That is another true fact. In the Magic Kingdom, we actually have more visitors every single year, which is amazing. 520 stores. It's 5.6 million square feet. This is a big place. But why do people come? They come for a number of reasons. They come for the great shopping. They come for the fine cuisine, right? There's everything from fast food to fine dining at Mall of America. They come for the attractions like Fly Over America and Sea Life. And the escape game. There's so much to do. And of course, Nickelodeon Universe, which started as Knott's Camp Snoopy, and then became Nickelodeon Universe with all the rides and attractions and the log chute. So many fun things to do there. But there's other reasons they come. They come because we make memories at Mall of America. You may not know this, but Mall of America is the unofficial site of the most official and unofficial world records in the world, unofficially speaking. My attorneys say I have to add that last part, right? We actually have something like 49 world records at Mall of America. About 25 of them are Guinness World Records. Some of the ones we have set recently, about 5 years ago, we had the largest handbell choir ever assembled during the holiday season at Mall of America, a Guinness World Record. We had, for our 25th birthday 5 years ago, we set 2 Guinness World Records that day. The most people wearing conical party hats, and they had to be straight up and down, or it didn't count for the Guinness person, and the most people frosting cupcakes in one location. And we had, free bikes for kids. On this day, we set a world record by giving away 5,250 free bikes to kids in need. We received donations of bikes, we refurbished them, we had volunteers come and refurbish them. I know for a fact some mall team members and I believe some Rotarians helped with that project. And we gave away so many bikes that day. And then the day we celebrated the opening of Shell Shock, our new ride, when we had 987 Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles all assembled in one location. They were actually guests in T-shirts, just so you know. And then we do these things to stay top of mind, like this one. If you remember when we did this was my first full holiday season at Mall of America. We built the world's largest gingerbread house. 14,500 pounds of gingerbread, 4,500 pounds of frosting, 2 tons of candy. You could line up along the side and you could walk through, and on the inside there were animated elves. We actually had 350,000 people walk through the gingerbread house. We know that because we had an elf at the exit, actually with a clicker, counting every single guest that went through, which was fun. And it was 67 feet tall. We won several Guinness World Records that day. This is a shot of the inside of the gingerbread house. It was awesome. I got to help build it. I smelled like gingerbread for the entire holiday season. It was so much fun. And then I used to go up every day and talk to guests. Why did you come? Why did you visit Mall of America? And one day I went up, and there was a gentleman my age, and right where all the kids put their grimy little hands, he was licking the gingerbread house. And it was not a tip of the tongue lick. It was a, one of those, right? I had 2 words for him. I said, no. And why? And his only response was, I had to make sure it was really gingerbread, right? The gentleman on opening day gathering dollars from all of the guests, like I said, I think he owns a private island. This person has health issues. That's all I'm saying, right? But there are lots of stories. We do this to stay top of mind, and we do this to drive traffic to Mall of America. We have lots of celebrities that have been at the mall. We have more than 400 events every year. And there's fun celebrities. We have everyone from Grumpy Cat. Who doesn't love Grumpy Cat, right? And then, of course, we have to have boy bands. We have lots of boy bands at Mall of America. The Jonas Brothers. I was there that day when we had 4,000 screaming 12-year-old girls. It was so loud. Or the day we had One Direction when there were 6,000 screaming 12-year-old girls at the mall. Or the day Zac Efron came, and I was here for this as well, and we had 8,000 screaming 12-year-old girls. Or the day New Kids on the Block came, and we actually had 12,000 screaming 45-year-old moms. They were horrible. They were horrible. They pushed and they shoved, and the teenagers are loud, but they're very polite, right? This was a crazy day. But we do this to bring people into the mall and to have fun and create memories. Just like it's a place for love at Mall of America. You may not know this, that the mall has had more than 10,000 weddings take place at Mall of America. Like the day we built an ice castle in the north parking lot, and we had couples get married. We built a news desk out of ice, and we had national news covering these weddings at Mall of America in Bloomington. The day we had the wedding in Sea Life. At that time, it was Underwater Adventures. This was covered live on the Today Show. They were in the Shark Tank. The bride had the veil knocked off her head by a shark live on national TV. It was awesome. And they're still happily married. I love it. Or the day we had the couples get married on the Orange Streak, right? All the brides were on the right, all the grooms were on the left, all dressed up. The family was up on the loading platform, and the justice of this peace talked about the ups and downs of married life together. And they said, I do. And the first thing they did was they took a roller coaster ride together. Those are memories. Those are creating stories and lifelong events, right? There's one I didn't put a picture in, but the Weinlichs. Do you remember when the Weinlichs got married? Dave was engaged to get married. His fiancée called off the marriage, and he told his friends, don't worry, I'm still getting married, and if I don't have a bride, you get to pick her. So his friends called us and said, will you help us with this? This was about 27 years ago. We said, sure, we'll help. We put out ads and billboards, and 654 ladies volunteered to marry this gentleman sight unseen. We narrowed it down to the 30 finalists the day of the wedding. Dave was riding roller coasters and going shopping and having lunch, and these poor brides-to-be were going through the interview process. Bethy, who the family chose, they met in the rotunda. The first thing they did together was they walked to the carousel in the park, and they rode the carousel together. When you go to the carousel, look for the white horse. Underneath it, there's a plaque honoring the love of Dave and Bethy Weinlich, because it's about relationships and stories, right? 5 years ago, the Weinlichs reached out to us again and said, can we talk to you? And we said, sure. And they said, you don't know this, but Dave is not well. He has stage 4 cancer. One of our last requests is, will you recreate our wedding for us? And we said, sure, of course we will. Their 4 kids were there, the same officiant. We recreated that memory for the Weinlichs as well. It's honoring all of our guests, one person at a time. And then we celebrate sports. Of course, Kurt kind of mentioned this. Home plate is still in the stadium, the exact location of home plate. It's in front of the SpongeBob ride. Go and look at it. You remember when we went to the Twins games right out at the old Met Stadium? I sat in the cheap seats with my dad. You know that the stadium was there before the mall and the sheep farm. Do you know who had development rights before the stadium was built on that property and sold them at a loss, got out of the contract? True story. My dad had development rights on that property to open a trailer sales lot. And he said, no one's ever going to drive to Bloomington, Minnesota, which is why I'm here today and not in Paris or London or New York. And then this is the red chair above the log chute where Harmon Killebrew, June 3rd, 1967, a 520-foot home run. Imagine that, how long that was. That was before steroids, right? And he broke his bat in 2, and back then you could use pine tar on your bats. The Twins kept that broken bat, and for the rest of the stadium history, they used that broken bat to stir the pine tar, to try to bring good luck and a winning championship. And then, of course, the 50-yard line. This is right in front of Caribou Coffee. This is where NFL history was made, at Mall of America. This happened on December 28th, 1975. It was the Dallas Cowboys against the Minnesota Vikings. Playoff game, cold Minnesota winter game, right? Back then, the Vikings were winning, less than 2 minutes left, 14-10. And Roger Staubach took the hike right where that coin is located. He was the quarterback of the Cowboys. Remember Roger, right? And he took the hike and he fell back. And the purple people, it was Carl Eller and Alan Page and Jim Marshall, they're rushing him. Roger closed his eyes and he threw this long pass, and down on the other end, Drew Pearson pushed off. That's all I'm saying. That's all I'm saying, right? It should have been a penalty. The game should have been over. We should have been going on to the Super Bowl. The Dallas Cowboys won the game. Here's how history was made. After that game, Roger, who was raised Catholic, was asked by the media, how'd you make that incredible pass? He said, I closed my eyes and I said, a Hail Mary. This coin is one of 20 coins that are left that marks its exact replica of the coin at Nickelodeon Universe. That's for you. That was the first time the words Hail Mary was ever used in NFL history. So when you're watching the games this fall and they say he's going to throw a Hail Mary, that started in Bloomington, Minnesota, right? Like so many great things have happened here as well. And then, of course, most recently in 2018, partnering with our friends from Bloomington and Bloomington CVP, we hosted so many great events at Mall of America for Super Bowl 52. Just wanted to share a couple of images. Radio Row, if you were out during that week of Super Bowl, we had 1.5 million people in Mall of America. And if you were there that week, you know that we had 1.5 million people. They were not downtown. They were where it was warm and dry inside the mall, and it was so much fun. But we also honor other sports. Like we had the 3-on-3 national championship when the men's Final Four was in town. Or more recently, when the Women's Final Four was here, and we helped celebrate 50 years of Title IX. What a landmark. And this was from the 50 years of Title IX, too. 3M created this great exhibit about dreaming big, and thousands of young women and ladies and girls wrote their dreams on Post-it notes and on the floor at the mall. It was awesome. And then I'll talk briefly about holidays, because if you've ever been out there at holidays, it's amazing. A big building deserves big decorations like our enchanted snowflakes or our oversized toys that you see throughout the mall. The giant ornaments. Quick story, we got many of these from Rockefeller Center. They were going to throw them out, and we said, no, we'd love to take those and recycle those. So we brought them to Mall of America. And then, of course, where Santa sits during the holiday time and how he arrives at Mall of America, always on a ride in Nickelodeon. It is so much fun. And then we've also done the Candy Cane Institute the last couple of holiday seasons, which is why I have a full beard, because the last 2 years we've needed Santa Dan to fill in a little bit with the families, and it's been one of the joys of my career at the mall. And finally, I wanted to share some love moments, because it's about stories, but it's about helping people too. COVID and the civil unrest the last couple of years, 3 years, have been really challenging. But following the civil unrest, we talked to a lot of businesses that were burnt out along Lake Street, and we created community commons, where 17 BIPOC-owned businesses had free rent to come in to Mall of America and reestablish their brands. We're now on our 4th iteration of entrepreneurs that are at Mall of America. When the Minnesota Transitions Charter School was burned down, we welcomed them to the mall, working with IKEA and Huntington Bank to provide technology services for them. And we also have the largest COVID vaccination site in the state of Minnesota. More than 200,000 vaccinations, kids and adults alike, got their shot at Mall of America. So good things, when community and Rotarians and friends pull together, can happen out of bad things. And we're celebrating 30 years this year as well. But the future is just starting, and there's more things coming, and Kurt's going to talk about the future.
Yeah, I call him Red Bull, and now you know why. Yeah, I'm going to actually fly through this, because what do we have for time check? I want to leave a little time for, okay. I'll be really quick. So, as most of you know and have heard me talking about, Mall of America, it's either growing or it's dying, right? No retail project can just be stagnant. And our owners have realized that, and they knew that this project needed to change over the years. They've always wanted to identify land around Mall of America for two reasons. One, to control what happens immediately around their site, and two, to have room for expansion. So where Mall of America sits today, Phase 1A, you're all familiar with. We own the 30 acres that's directly east of us. Maybe an expo site in the future. We're working with Bloomington on that. The Phase 2 site, let's see if I can find the pointer here, is everything east of IKEA and directly north of Lindau Lane. And then the Port Authority actually owns the old Thunderbird site. We own a chunk of it as well. Hopefully someday we'll work together in a joint project to tie all of this together for future expansion of the mall. This being the first phase, I'm just going to flip through this really quick. IKEA was actually a part of a phase of Mall of America that happened, now almost 20 years ago. Radisson Blue was next. That was about 12, almost 13 years ago. Phase 1C has been 7 years ago. This is the next phase that you've probably heard about in the paper over the last several years. The water park project that will sit just north of the mall, actually connect over Lindau Lane into the north end of the mall, and there'll be a parking deck associated with that. I'll give you a couple of renderings of what that might look like. This is just from an overhead. This is actually driving west on Lindau Lane, where it goes, Lindau Lane, it goes today, the plaza that sits above it right here. The water park will actually go right over the top of that plaza. This is a look from the north end looking back at the mall. This is Radisson, or JW Marriott here in the office building there. Just to give you a sense of the scale, this is from within the mall, current level 2 of the mall looking north. This is from the food court on level 3, looking in, much like you do at the amusement park today, from kind of all 4 sides of the mall. In the 2 food courts, you can look into the amusement park. You'll be able to look into the water park. This is just taking the lid off that water park, give you a quick glimpse of what that looks like. And then once the water park's built, we will likely do almost certainly do a water park hotel or resort that'll be attached to it for the water park guests. We'll expand the parking for that. That might be what that looks like, uncertain. And then after that, the rest of the site, Phase 2 site, will get filled up. We're still in the works of identifying what these are going to be. These are different today. The vision for those additional sites today are different than they were 10 years ago, even if they were 5 years ago. Right now, we're talking to the city, Port, Bloomington Convention and Visitors Bureau about potentially a youth sports complex, potentially an exhibition facility, potentially a small arena, all geared. This entire site will be geared around sports, entertainment, exhibition facilities, driving traffic again to the mall. You won't see a lot of retail in any future expansion of the mall. The whole idea is to kind of diversify ourselves from retail. When we first opened, we were 80% retail, 20% entertainment. We're now 70-30. The project that we just did in New Jersey is 50-50. Our goal is to get Mall of America to more of a 50-50 mix where more people are coming for reasons other than shopping, but while they're there, they'll shop. Economic impacts, I won't go through this, we won't have time, but what most people don't realize is when they complain about your property tax bill, our property tax bill is $34 million a year. That's just ours, not including the anchor stores or the hotels. On top of that, we generate about, well, this is 2019, pre-COVID, it was about $134 million in total taxes. Go to the state, the region, and Bloomington. That dropped in 2020 to about $87 million when the mall was shut down. The hotels were closed. A lot of that benefit to Bloomington comes from the hotel stays, the lodging tax that happens that goes to the city of Bloomington. Now that's bounced back. Where we are today, I know a lot of people want to know, they always ask me, where's the mall at? We're back to about 85% of our normal traffic in terms of how many people are coming through. We're back over 100% of our normal sales. So we'll have record sales in 2022. God forbid another variant. We actually had record sales in 2021, so people are spending more. So while the traffic, overall traffic's down, what really matters to our retailers is what are their sales levels, and those have been up. Part of that's been inflation as well, right? Prices are going up on things, which also drives higher inflation or higher sales. So with that, we want to open it up to questions and more opportunity for you guys to talk about your Mall of America moments and the connections that you've had. I forgot about Mahendra all along having the Burger King franchise out there. But we'll open it up.
Just share
Jim.
Statistics that the Burger King, it was only brand name restaurant in the Mall of America at that time.
Yeah.
It was not allowed anything else. And we had dollars sales per square foot, the highest in the Mall of America at that point in time.
Yeah.
And
at that time, I wasn't in leasing, still not. But
and
at that
CEO
time,
once came and we were 80 people in line. I was scared to have too big a space, so I just chose 1,100 square feet. Normally, we are 2,500 square feet of Burger King. And there were 80 people standing in line. And we both would act like we're customers and we'll just go and talk to the customers. Don't you find some other thing? This is such a big line here. You'll have to wait for an hour. But the name brand does make a difference.
Yeah.
So we were very lucky.
Well, as a lot of you know, I had the opportunity to work for a firm called PCL Construction, which is Edmonton-based, which is where 555 is. And they built the largest mall in Canada at that time. Anyhow, I didn't have the opportunity to be a project manager in the mall. I was doing the United States Post Office. But two things come to mind. The amusement park has the largest, at that time, the largest skylight area in the U.S. for an indoor. And there's a lot of benefits to that because it helps heat, but then when it gets too hot, then it's the opposite is the fact. But the one thing that I remember the most is that before it was opened, we had to certify all of the escalators. So one whole afternoon, all of the PCL employees and a bunch of the mall employees we rode all of those escalators fully capacity, so to make sure that they would work fully loaded. And man, it took us 3 hours to certify all of those escalators. Pretty amazing.
Okay, that was my last runway fashion show with Nordstrom, and I quit the fashion industry. However, my girlfriend, Sarah Rogers, is still with the Event Social.
Yeah, Sarah Rogers is still our fashion expert, and we're actually, so this is a pledge to this group. We're just finalizing a 30th anniversary coffee table book in which Sarah Rogers is featured, and we will get a copy for everyone in this group at 75% of the price.
I have a brother that likes to be at every opening of something, and my brother, sister-in-law, sister, 3 of our kids, 11, 10, and 8, that I should have known what year it opened, went to the Mall of America on the day it opened so we can say we were there. So that's my memory.
I have a memory to share.
Oh, cool.
Can you hear me?
We can.
Well, I was working for Honeywell at that time, and I was in the marketing area. We used to get a lot of Japanese customers here for Honeywell things. And I talked to them, and I hadn't gone to the Mall of America yet. On everyone who came from Japan, the first thing on their list was Mall of America. And I asked, how the heck do you know about Mall of America? We just started. Oh, every Japanese knows. So I did not realize at that time, as Daniel was saying, that this thing will grow like it has. You're right. None of us thought that.
Question, whose idea was it to put those cool green lights in the parking ramp?
Whose idea? I don't know whose idea.
If you like the idea, it was mine. It wasn't mine, but I will say that that was a project that the city helped with, and Excel, and there were a number of partners, right? And it makes a lot of sense, right? When we first put them in, so when you drive in the parking lot, if the light is green, it indicates one of those parking spaces is open to help with traffic flow, and if it's red, it means all 4 of them are taken. I had like 18 emails, because it debuted like in October, if I remember right. I had guests emailing me saying, thank you for putting holiday lights in the parking ramps.
Sorry, but I have a question for Kurt.
Yes.
What did you do in the beginning to advertise the way you did, that the Japanese so far away, and they were engineers? I mean, they were not in the entertainment area. How did they know about it? What did you guys do all over the world?
Well, we have a tourism department. We've got 5 people that are in our tourism department. That's all they do is travel to trade shows, travel shows, along with the BCVB, all around the country, all around the world, to basically advertise the mall to tour groups, tour packages, and then just being as big as it is, it naturally gets a lot of PR. Papers at that time, before internet, just cover those kind of things. So it was picked up. It was. I mean, one thing the mall has always done well is advertising, marketing, and as Dan was talking about the stories and all of the world records, all of that, it's constant media, constantly being in the paper, constantly being on TV, really just builds the brand awareness all around the world. But specifically, I don't know what happened with Japan before we opened.
I've done a super job, no matter how you did it.
Oh, thank you, Andrew.
Just to underscore that point, my first trip to the mall was maybe just a couple of months after it opened. I went in on an evening about 5 o'clock on a weeknight to the Nordstrom to buy a pair of shoes. And it wasn't a terribly busy night at that time, but I did notice the people around me, I was the only English-speaking customer in the store.
Wow.
All right, how about a nice round of applause for Kurt Hagen and Dan Jasper? All right, thank you, gentlemen. We appreciate it very much. We end these meetings on moments of gratitude. Many of you have heard the phrase, the best time to plant a tree was 20 years ago, which speaks to the issue of vision. And I am tremendously grateful as somebody who is a steward of the Mall of America today for the vision that people had 35, 40 years ago to make this a reality. And some of them are sitting in this room, Bob Erickson and Larry Lee. It is definitely something that this city has benefited from and will continue to benefit from. And for the vision of those who came before us, we're very grateful today. That's all we have today. Thank you for coming to Bloomington Noon Rotary. You will see each other next week. You will not see me. I'll see you in 2 weeks. Oh, and the picnic Thursday night. That's right. That's right. Thank you. So hopefully we see most of you at the picnic. Thank you, Courtney, for coordinating. Have a great day.